So, shall we start with this then, Amber? Now,
Yes.
it
yes,
won't
fire
come as
away.
any great surprise to you that I've been doing a little bit of research on you, which is always interesting. And the first thing is to find out that you're a pool hustler.
I think is the important, should have been the important word in that sentence. So yes, I played a lot at university, and yeah, was on the university pool team. I think in fact, I'm unbeaten in the varsity match against Cambridge as well, which is obviously very important. But I wasn't a natural. It came through hours and hours at the pool table, and eventually I got the hang of it. So I imagine if I played now, I wouldn't be up to much because it's been too long since I practiced.
Yeah, that sounds just like a hustler, actually, to say that. So, I mean, I think a warning to the industry not to challenge you at pool is probably a good move. But
yeah,
also,
we'll see.
Looking back into your history, I mean, it's quite an interesting one. I mean, obviously at Oxford, studying chemistry, getting a master's, and then going into really, straight into KPMG and having nothing to do with chemistry whatsoever.
Yeah, so I guess, you know, when you come to the end of the school, you work out what you want from your degree. There wasn't a career as such that I knew I wanted, so I studied what I found interesting and what I was good at, and something that I guess then when I was coming to the end of my degree, you know, you work out what you think you're good at, what your skills are, and therefore what you want to translate into a job. That's the way I looked at it. And I knew I was, you know, I was logical, I was numerate from a chemistry degree, used a lot of maths in that. I knew I wanted a job where I got to interact with people. That was really, really important to me. And I found the business world interesting by that point. So I thought that going into accountancy and audit to start with would be a great sort of business basis as someone who, you know, had never formally studied it before. So I think there's a stat, it might just be for people at Oxford Uni, but I think it's about 80% of people that study chemistry then go on to alternative careers, so don't use it in, you know, as in going to a work lab or a teacher or that sort of stuff, go do a PhD. So it's not actually that uncommon to sort of study it and move on, although I can see why you'd look at my CV and think that's a bit strange.
And then on from KPMG to Optionis, is it?
So after I left KPMG, I went to Which. So in my time at KPMG, I moved from auditing into, it was called transaction services, but it was basically dealing with mergers and acquisitions. So we looked into sort of companies that were being sold or were trying to sell themselves, and would support with that. So it was very strategic. So my role I then took at Which was strategic development initially. So it was using those skills to look at how Which could expand and grow. And then over time, I loved that role. It was great. But I was always commenting on something else that someone else was doing. And what I wanted to do was actually become the doer, which is why I moved to general management. So I could actually, you know, get my hands dirty and, you know, instead of being, you know, purely, I guess, intellectual, and, you know, that really is what strategy is. It's quite an intellectual viewpoint of things. I wanted to translate that into operations and actually making stuff happen. So that's sort of how that career progression happened. And then the opportunity came up at Optionis, which was, you know, really a sort of smaller managing director role. It was a professional services group, but that's sort of in a way irrelevant. It was the role that I wanted, to again have more control over the destiny of the business that I was looking after, which was what appealed to me. And then, yeah, the Glass and Glazing Federation commercial MD role came up, and I thought the industry looked fascinating. Bit of a tie back actually to the early days of studying chemistry in terms of, you know, obviously it's very important for from the manufacturing side of the industry. The role looked like it had so much potential. You know, we knew that the commercial businesses had the potential to grow and needed someone to sort of push that forward, and also needed a more strategic viewpoint. So when the role came up, it felt like it hit the sweet spot of sort of what I found interesting, but where I'd really be able to add value as well.
How did you actually, I mean, was that an advertised job, or were you headhunted for it, or?
No, I think I was casting my mind back a bit. I think I saw it advertised somewhere and thought, yeah, that sounds great, and in touch with the recruiter that was handling it.
But I mean, since you're moving into GGF commercial, I mean, commercial has taken almost the leading role. It's almost as if the membership side is following along behind, really. It's become probably more well known, the commercial side, than GGF membership, if you know what I mean.
I mean, it's hard for me to say that. Obviously, I'm an insider, so you only see certain aspects. But you know, we've done an awful lot of good work. I think it's you know, we'll obviously come on to talk about that. The GGF side's been, you know, as has been very well documented, gone through a period of change. But I have to say, since I've come back from maternity leave, and what I've seen that John Agnew's managed to achieve since he's been MD over the last, well, I think it was January that he started, is really the inroads we've made from a political lobbying point of view, which, you know, is something really important that our industry's trade federation should be doing, and something that, you know, has finally made headways on. You know, maybe John actually needs to, you know, have a proper chat with you to explain some of the stuff, because be getting that across. And, you know, since Steve Rice was as, you know, MD for a little while before John came into the role, really refocused on the sort of technical excellence and providing that support to members, you know, that's been taken forward as well. So, you know, it takes a while to make changes that are needed. And, you know, same true for the commercial businesses. Sadly, you can't get everything done as quickly as you want to a lot of the time and make the big positive impact. But I hope that, you know, you and the industry at large will be able to see a lot of those positives in the trade federation. But yeah, we're not going to slow down in commercial, that's for sure. We're, you know, we've got loads of exciting plans for the coming year, and you know, despite it being a very difficult year, we've seen lots of good stuff happen.
Yeah, I mean, you've got Fencer, Install BFRC, RISA, Borough IT. I mean, it's a fair old number of businesses there, all within commercial. I mean, that takes some managing, I would think, doesn't it? Yeah,
I mean, it is a juggling act for me, for sure. But obviously, there's a lot of overlap in terms of you know, the customer base. It's largely installers, less so for BFRC, where you know, the manufacturing side is really important as well. But you know, I'm lucky we've got a really strong team. So you know, each business has a director heading it up directly. So you know, Liz Clark's the operations director for BFRC, Chris is membership director for Fencer, etc., etc. So we've got strong people looking after the day-to-day, and then, you know, I work with them, you know, to try and bring out the best and move the businesses on, and sort of help focus on what we need to do to keep improving. And that's really our mantra. It is about continuous improvement for us.
I mean, how has this COVID period affected commercial? I mean, has it been more I mean, presumably, obviously been more difficult, I guess, but I mean, has it changed the way that people have worked within that? I'm presuming you can't go out, for instance, to check installations and things like this, or is that done with Zoom, for instance?
Well, yeah, we have had to adapt. I'd say we've had a remarkably good year considering the circumstances. So if I start by talking about the the assessments of installation work, we have adapted. So we're able to do some of it remotely now, exactly as you said, through conversations, through photos, very strict procedures to make sure it's done properly. But there's only certain jobs that can be done in that way. There are ones where we do need to do it face to face, and that's really important because we're not going to compromise our standards. But so since the first lockdown eased, we've been able to start going out again, and we have very strict health and safety measures in place to make sure, firstly, we're keeping our own staff safe, because that's really important, but also we're keeping the homeowners and the installers that we see safe. I'm speaking about that probably at least on a weekly basis, just to make sure we're doing everything we can to keep everyone safe and happy, and making sure we're able to do a good job still.
I mean, during this period, there's been certainly a boom in business for the whole of the fenestration industry.
Yeah.
Has the demands changed? For instance, you've got the rainbow thing for looking at ratings. Is there any evidence that the homeowner isn't so bothered about that now? They just want to get windows in, or are ratings still as important as ever?
No, I think they're really important. I think homeowners, let's face it, different homeowners are going to have different things they care about and different needs. Some will care purely about price. Some will be really hot on energy efficiency. And I think it's really important that we help support the industry to be able to get that message across, which is what the point of the BFRC rainbow labels is really. But, we've seen on the news yesterday, the government announcing all of the things around energy efficiency and how that's moving. That's not going to go away. And all this stuff in the news raises awareness with homeowners. So it's really important to be able, as an installer and as a manufacturer higher up the supply chain, to be able to have that conversation with potential customers to say, look, our product is a high performing from an energy point of view, and this is how you can trust us that it will perform that way, because it's accredited by a neutral separate company in BFRC, who have the technical know-how to be able to stand behind those ratings.
Fencer must be in almost the best position of anyone in the industry to actually be able to monitor exactly what's happening and how successful business is. And you must have a lot of stats on just what is happening out there, but you don't make those really available to the industry, do you, as such?
No, it's always the question that we get asked, and it's something we're looking at very seriously. We did actually start looking at it at the start of the year, but obviously focus had to change to deal with the joys that the pandemic brought. So that project was paused, but I've kicked it back off since I've come back. So we do want to get to a place where we can provide more useful information, but obviously that is done in the right way, because we have to be fair. We obviously can't expose people's data without their permission. We've got to be very careful about how we do it. So that's why it's not simply a case of opening our books to everyone, but it is important. I can talk in general terms about it, and I think what the market is saying is what we're seeing. The numbers have been huge. In recent months, we've seen higher installation volumes than the equivalent month the previous year. There's been a big swing back, and that's despite obviously the supply issues and raw materials that the industry is seeing. So something's going right. There's definitely demand there, and speaking to our installers, many of them have order books that are full right up until the end of Q1 next year, which is great to see.
So despite the original lockdown, do you think that 2020 will actually have a larger volume of registrations than there were in 2019?
No, I doubt it. I mean, it's still hard to say because November's going great guns from, figures we're seeing. But obviously December's always a quieter time. If there's a very uncharacteristically busy December, possibly, but I think it's unlikely. So yeah, we basically had, I guess it was about 2.5 months in total where volumes were obviously very low, where people couldn't work. It's been caught up, but I think it's unlikely that it'll exceed 2019, despite obviously the really high volumes that have been going in of late. But 2.5 months to be pretty much completely out for the industry, it's basically a quarter of the year. It's a lot to catch up upon.
What are your expectations for next year then? I mean, obviously it's a crystal ball job, but
yeah,
interested to hear your take on it.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously something that I've had a lot of conversations on. I guess cautiously optimistic is the phrase that's always thrown around. I'm a glass half full sort of a person anyway. But it's just impossible to say at the moment. We, from a budget point of view, we feel that we've had to be quite cautious. It's only the right thing to do because we're looking after the funds of the group and of the individual companies. But that said, again, hearing things like order books being full, there's definitely an appetite for home improvement and a lot of good companies that are there to deliver the work. So I think we'll see a strong start to next year. The question will be if the vaccines are successful and people can start going on holiday over the summer in particular, the money that would go to home improvements or is going to home improvements at the moment might be diverted to, I guess, the more fun sort of big ticket items like going on holiday again. So it'll be if and when that happens. Obviously, there might be another lockdown as well. We don't know how strict that would be, but I think I'd be more negative about next year if it wasn't for some of the positives about the vaccinations and I guess the hope that brings.
Yeah, I mean, I was talking the other day to Rob McGlennon at De Koning and asking him how on earth he budgets for next year. And his view was very much of, yeah, we're looking at it as a positive year coming up. And we're doing our budgets just as normal.
Yeah.
Or, always looking for an increase and expecting to get it.
Yeah, I think, what you have in your budget versus what you want your strategy to be and how you act upon it, can be two different things in these difficult times. So, in terms of the work that we're doing and going to deliver next year, that's all positive, and the sort of trajectory that we've been going on the last few years in terms of what we're delivering for our customers is going to continue. So with Fencer in the first half of the year, we've seen the highest number of applications we've ever had since Fencer was launched, and obviously there was a huge influx of people. So we had over 1,000 people apply to join Fencer in the first half of the year alone, which, it's a huge number. And it's thanks to, many factors, but including, raising awareness job that we did, particularly over 2019. And, when people are coming to us, they're saying it's because, they're being asked for homeowner certificates, or they've seen our messaging themselves and are interested. So it's great to see that. I can't see that subsiding. Our problem at the moment is actually a rather good one to have in many ways, is we can't process the applications quickly enough. So as I've said before to you, Chris, customer service is really important to me. So that's actually a frustration for me at the moment, because I want to always offer excellent customer service, but we just can't get to stuff quickly enough, particularly, with challenges of remote working as well, not having our, slicker phone systems in operation at the moment and things like that. you know, interesting challenges, but in a way, a good challenge to have because it shows that something's working well.
Tell me, how successful was that advertising campaign you did for Fencer? I mean, I saw it quite a lot because I'm one of these sad people who look at things like ITV3 and ITV4 and things. I mean, how successful was it as a whole?
Yeah, it has been really successful from our perspective. I mean, we always thought that it was going to be a relative slow burn in terms of, you know, we weren't going to put it on TV and, you know, within the same hour we were going to see, you know, 20 companies apply to join us. It's, you know, it's brand awareness pieces take a while to gather that momentum, but you know, we're now firmly wedged in people's minds, I think, as a result of that campaign. Not just the TV side, it was, you know, a genuinely integrated marketing campaign that, you know, reached people from different angles. But yeah, I think, you know, brand awareness has gone up. As I said, people are joining, which is great. And, you know, I think the important thing is we're not just getting people in, but we're able to offer much better support. I think previously we were, I guess, rather passive and sometimes then reactive, and, you know, we're just issuing the certificates. Now we're offering much more in terms of technical support, you know, a lot more in terms of member benefits. So things that are really useful. We've launched a lead generation service during the year, and we've seen a lot of companies, our approved installers, benefit from that, receiving customer leads. So we're always looking at how we can create value once people are in with us. It's not just about, you know, we're known by the homeowner, but we're actually adding value. You know, it's worth paying their membership fee to us because they get a lot more out than they put in terms of those fees. And we've got more plans to come for that. Sorry, Chris.
Sorry, no, I was just going to ask, I mean, did you manage to do anything in the way of focus groups to see how much the homeowner had recognized what Fencer was and made them more aware?
Sorry, we did before we kicked off the campaign, but we haven't been able to get back to it since. Again, as I said, this year's been rather so best laid plans slightly swept aside. So we haven't revisited that yet, if I'm being honest. But it's something that we you know, we need to do in the future and see that. But anecdotally, it's definitely increased. You know, our RESA assessors are out speaking to homeowners and installers all the time, and that's certainly the feedback that they're being given. That you know, more and more people know about Fencer and are asking for a Fencer certificate, and that's really important.
Finally, what about focus for next year? Where will your focus be? I mean, you've come back off maternity leave. You're suddenly, mind you, it's a good time to be off on leave, I guess, during COVID, at least get that out of the way. But you're back now and focused for 2021. Where are your aims for next year?
Well, I mean, each of the businesses, we still feel there's so much more for us to give and, you know, and to grow, really. So with the FRC, for example, you'll have seen we launched our noise reduction ratings, and so that's going to be a big focus for us next year, getting those out to the industry properly, making sure people understand them and how they can increase their sales by talking about these great features that you know, their products deliver to homeowners. So that's one. And then there's much more exciting stuff through BFRC that we'll reveal to you in due course once we're ready to do so. But also there, you know, this year, Liz and the team have been really busy getting ready for our UCAS accreditation. We've had our initial assessment, which went really well. So there'll be more that we can do as a result of that next year. So yeah, RESA, obviously we're going to have lots of assessments to do, but we've also had our new expert witness product that's gone down really well with the industry and with homeowners and solicitors. So we're looking at how we can keep taking that forward and you know, again, it's another great way to support people. Hopefully, you know, in many cases be able to avoid courts by having an independent, you know, technical view on these things. But if it does need to go to court, you know, we're there to support as well. Fencer, like I said, there's more and more member benefits that we're looking to add, and, you know, ways that we can be useful, really, quite, you know, to be quite frank. We want to capitalise on that and keep helping our installers. There are some other sort of new product things we're looking at on Fencer that I want to take forward, and including, you know, it's not just Fencer, it's from the whole group really, but looking at what sort of market insight and data that sort of we can provide to help the industry understand what's going on in the world. So yeah, and then InstallSure, sorry, I haven't mentioned. Yeah, again, we've seen record numbers of applications to InstallSure this year as well. Thanks to the work that we've done there. The rebrand from GGFI seems to have gone down well and made sense. So you know, it's good to see that there's a lot of work to continue there. And again, we're looking at some potential new products to offer to installers to, I guess, help make their lives easier when they're having to do the boring things like look at insurance.
Anna Gregory, thank you very much. It's very good to see you back, and to see you even though it's only over Zoom. But thank you very much, and we look forward to seeing what you do for next year.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks, Chris. Thanks for your time.
Thanks, Anna.